Need for Speed, one of the most iconic racing franchises in gaming history. For a while, it was king of street racing, but in 2009, the franchise took a massive detour onto the track with Need for Speed Shift. It was bold, different, and helped breathe a new life into the series that was struggling to stay in pole position. But why did Need for Speed abandon the streets for the circuit? How did it balance simulation and arcade? And did it pay off? To understand how Shift came to be, we've got to rewind to the mid-2000s. For years, the Need for Speed franchise was all about street racing. From Underground to Most Wanted, it was neon lights, street races, and evading cops. It was super fun, but by the late 2000s, things were starting to feel a bit stale. Sales were slipping, and it became clear that the series needed a fresh direction. Need for Speed Pro Street in 2007, which was the first step away from the legal street racing scene, but didn't quite hit the mark. Fans were divided, it seemed like the series was stuck in neutral, but EA wasn't giving up. They wanted something that could push Need for Speed into a new era, and that's where Shift comes in. EA turned to Slightly Mad Studios, a new developer made up of racing veterans who had worked on titles like GTR and GT Legends. These guys knew how to create a hardcore racing experience. But the idea wasn't to turn Need for Speed into a full-blown simulation game. Instead, Shift was designed to blend the intensity of a simulation with the fun and accessibility of an arcade racer. So what made Shift different from the games before it? Well, for starters, the focus to professional racing circuits. Instead of tearing up city streets or running from cops, you are now racing on iconic tracks like Gran, Laguna Seca and the Nürburgring. It was a big departure from the usual underground vibe, but it made sense. By this point, games like Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport were dominating the simulation scene, and EA wanted a piece of that pie. But here's the thing, Shift wasn't just another sim racer, it had something that really set it apart. Its insane sense of speed and inertia. The cockpit view was revolutionary for its time. It wasn't just about showing the dashboard anymore. The whole camera would shake and react to the car's movement. If you're going 200 miles an hour, you felt it. The world around you would blur, your vision would distort, and if you slammed to a wall, well, you'd feel it. The game made you feel like you were on the edge of control at all times. Most racing games had a solid third-person view, but the first-person cockpit experience in Shift was next level. Slightly Mad Studios did a ton of work to simulate the G-forces, the feeling of the car struggling under hard braking, and the inertia you felt as you whipped around corners. It made every race feel intense, like you were right in there behind the wheel. Another unique feature was the driver profile system. It tracked how you raced and adjusted accordingly. Were you an aggressive racer, smashing into opponents, cutting corners and taking every risk you could? Or were you a precision driver, hitting every apex, braking at just the right moment? The game rewarded both styles, allowing players to develop their own racing identity. And let's not forget about the AI. These weren't just passive racers. The AI in Shift fought back, aggressively, defending positions and trying to take you out if you got too close. And that added an extra layer of tension that kept you on your toes. So did it work? Absolutely. Need for Speed Shift was a commercial success, selling over 4 million copies worldwide, and it was met with strong reviews. Critics praised its balance between simulation and arcade, and how it brought back the thrill that Need for Speed was known for. Even if it wasn't a different kind of track, the game scored solid ratings across the board, with many reviews calling it the best Need for Speed in years. The gamers too appreciated the shift in focus, the attention to detail in the physics, the insane sense of speed, and the aggressive racing style brought something fresh to the franchise. Even though Shift moved away from the flashy street racing culture, it found a new audience and players who wanted something a bit more grounded, but still exhilarating. Now, I know what you're thinking, doesn't Shift look like a sim racing game? Well yeah, on the surface it does. But at its core, it's still very much an arcade game. Sure, you had some serious physics under the hood, but Slightly Mad Studios made sure that the handling was more forgiving than typical sims. You could still drift around corners, pull off insane moves, and not get penalised for it like you would in Gran Turismo or Forza. Shift found a sweet spot. It felt real, but wasn't punishing. So, where does Need for Speed Shift stand today? 15 years on, it's kind of a hidden gem in the Need for Speed catalogue. Even though it took a franchise that was at risk of losing its identity and gave it a bold new direction. It proved that you could merge simulation elements with arcade action in a way that felt fresh and exciting. And while it might look like a sim race on the outside, Shift never lost that Need for Speed arcade heart. I'm just going to move away from the scripted part for a bit and then just add a personal note. I mean, I remember when I was at secondary school still and this game came out, couldn't believe it. I was showing my friends all the trailers. Need for Speed had changed from street racing to circuit racing. I couldn't believe it. I just was so excited for when this game was going to come out. I mean, Forza Motorsport 3 would have just come out in 2009. I was definitely a massive Forza fan. Gran Turismo would have released, was it Gran Turismo 5 or 5 Prologue the year after? So I kind of stopped playing Gran Turismo at number 4. But I was so excited for when this came out, and it really didn't disappoint. I mean, really, for the Need for Speed games, I mean, I played the really early ones, Need for Speed 2 on the PC, and probably Carbon. Certainly some other Need for Speed games I need to go back and play, which hopefully I will do at some point. But yeah, just everything about this, you know, it's the driver profile where you got to hit all, you know, get all the corners ticked off, as well as almost like a Fable style, you know, if you're good you get certain points, and if you're bad you'll start growing horns out the top of your car. But yeah, just everything about it, you know, it was, even now, if you look at Forza compared to, you know, the cockpit view of this, it's crap, isn't it? I mean, it's just not good enough for... Did it come out last year? Maybe? Even Gran Turismo, I mean, it's not... You know, would you say this is overdoing it? Is this saturated? The amount of blurry vision and vibrations and stuff? I mean, in Shift 2, you had the helmet and it would turn with the car, which, again, was another game changer, because I still don't think Forza or Gran Turismo do that. Now, I could be wrong. I've not played the new ones, Forza for obvious reasons, but yeah, I mean, it's for a game that's 15 years old. It really holds up. I mean, my driving skills don't, but to start with, it did feel just a bit loose. But I think I was going in expecting it to be a simulation, and it really isn't. It's a simulation of an arcade dressed up as a simulation. I think that's a really good combo, and it really works really well. And I say, I remember I had a quick look at my garage of cars, and it was in 2009. It was sort of the peak of Top Gear, which is obviously the lads have called it time. But all the cars in my garage were all the cars that they were testing, and it was just sort of the perfect storm. You know, talking to your friends about the latest Top Gear episode that came out over the weekend. And then I get to then drive the same cars that they were testing and suit them up after they have, and it's a really excellent game. And say, for them to take the jump to go from street racing to circuit racing, could you see Forza going from street racing to being an arcade game, or Gran Turismo? So what do you think? Is Need for Speed Shift one of the best modern Need for Speed games to come out? Has it stood the test of time after 15 years? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this retrospective. I hope to do some more in the future, and I'll catch you next time.